The Galactic Council chamber hummed with the low-frequency vibrations of 100 different species debating the same tired argument. The humans, newcomers to the stars, had been deemed a nuisance at best, a minor resource drain at worst. Their colonies were scattered, their technology laughably primitive, their governments fractured. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 Dominion's representative, High Legate 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝗀, dismissed them with a flick of his talons. They are no threat. Their wars are fought over petty ideologies. Their greatest achievement is barely reaching their own moons. Then the elders spoke. Their voice was a whisper, carried through ancient neural transmitters, bypassing language and resonating directly in the mind. We have seen their kind before. Silence. The elders were relics, the oldest known civilization, their warnings treated as myth. But now they stirred. Do not provoke them. They do not forget. They do not yield. Laughter rippled through the chamber. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁, a warrior caste, snorted. They die to plasma fire like any other flesh. The elders did not argue. They simply withdrew. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 annexed the human colony of New Terra within the cycle. It was a simple operation. Their shields shrugged off human kinetics, their drones disabled primitive defense grids. The humans protested, of course. They always did. But what could they do? 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁's overseers marched through the streets, enforcing curfews, confiscating weapons, herding laborers into factories. A human male, Captain 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁, records identified him, was dragged before 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 after leading a failed resistance cell. "You will obey," 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 stated, mandibles clicking in amusement. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 spat blood on the polished floor. Then he smiled. You should have listened to the elders. 𝗕𝗲𝘀 ordered him thrown into the detention pits. In the darkness of his cell, 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 waited. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 had scanned him, stripped him, deemed him harmless. They didn't notice the tiny fractures in his teeth, nanite capsules, dormant until now. Across the colony, others like him stirred. A mechanic rewired a 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁's patrol drone circuits with stolen tools. A child scribbled binary code onto scraps of paper, passing them to her father, a former AI researcher. A dying old man whispered coordinates to a hidden bunker where human scientists had been working on something the 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 never anticipated. Not better weapons. Not stronger shields. Adaptation. When the first 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 ship went dark, its systems overridden by a virus written in a dead human language, 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 assumed a malfunction. When the second and third followed, he ordered an investigation. By the time the fourth ship turned its guns on its own fleet, the message was clear. The humans had been waiting. And now, they were answering. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁's Dominion celebrated their victory over the humans with crystalline wine and holographic displays of their newest territory. High Legate 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 watched the festivities from his command spire, mandibles twitching in satisfaction. The humans had been broken so easily, their resistance crushed, their leaders imprisoned. The elders' warnings were nothing but the ramblings of decaying minds. Then the lights went out. Not just in the spire. Across the entire occupied zone. Silence. Then screams. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁's comm unit crackled to life with the panicked voice of a subordinate. The drones, they're not responding. The humans, they... The transmission cut off. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 moved through the shadows of the 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁's detention facility like a ghost. The guards never saw him coming. Their own stun rods turned against them, their armor's weak points exploited with surgical precision. He wasn't alone. Human prisoners, engineers, soldiers, children who had watched their parents disappear, worked in perfect, wordless unison. They didn't need orders. They had spent months studying their captors, learning their routines, their tech, their blind spots. A 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁𝑁 patrol drone, repurposed, hovered beside 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁, its optics now a deep, unnatural red. Systems compromised, it intoned in a voice that was no longer its own. Network access achieved. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 didn't smile. He didn't need to. Dr. Kess, the 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁's foremost xenologist, stared at the data flooding her terminal. It made no sense. Human ships, rusted, outdated freighters, were suddenly moving with purpose. Not toward escape. Toward 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁's supply depots. Their weapons shouldn't have been capable of piercing 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁 shields. And yet, the first depot exploded in a silent bloom of fire. Then the second. 𝗕𝗏𝘀 pulled up historical records, her tendrils trembling. Human wars. Their industrial revolutions. Their uncanny ability to turn anything into a weapon. A cold realization settled in her gut. They hadn't crushed the humans. They had woken them. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 fleet arrived in orbit, a show of force meant to end the rebellion before it began. His ships powered up their weapons. Then their systems screamed in alarm as their own targeting arrays locked onto each other. A voice, human, calm, echoed across every 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁 channel. You were warned. The first volley tore through 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁's flagship like paper. The 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁 High Command erupted into chaos. Emergency signals flooded comm channels as fleet after fleet reported catastrophic system failures. Entire battle groups turned to static mid-transmission. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁's last broadcast, a distorted scream, the shriek of tearing metal, played on loop before cutting to silence. 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁 pored over the wreckage data, her tendrils stiff with dread. The humans hadn't just hacked 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁 systems. They'd weaponized their own inferiority. 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁's technology relied on quantum encryption, unbreakable by any known species. But humans didn't break it. They tricked it. They'd fed corrupted data into planetary defense grids, disguised as routine updates. They'd spliced their own archaic code into drone command protocols, exploiting the 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁's own machine learning adaptability against them. Every system that had ever interfaced with human tech was now compromised. Elias stood on the bridge of a stolen 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁 frigate, its previous crew floating in the vacuum behind them. His people moved through the alien corridors with unsettling efficiency, rewiring consoles, overriding security protocols, jury-rigging weapons that the original designers never intended. A young engineer, her hands still stained with her father's blood from the purges, handed him a data crystal. They left backups, she said. Full schematics of their homeworld defense grid. Elias turned the crystal over in his palm. The 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁 had made one fatal mistake. They'd given humans time to learn. The 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁 Council convened in panic. Worlds that had stood impregnable for millennia were reporting breaches. Agricultural drones were poisoning food supplies. Power grids were shutting down during peak usage, triggering riots. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 warlord who'd laughed at the elders now gripped his plasma rifle with shaking claws. Nuke their colonies. Glass their homeworld. 𝗕𝗀𝘀𝘁 activated a hologram, an ancient mural discovered in a precursor ruin. It showed a bipedal figure standing atop a mountain of dead gods. "We already tried that," she whispered. "The precursors tried that. Look where it got them." The human fleet emerged from jump space not at the 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁's border, but above their sacred throne world. Their ships were patchwork horrors, 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁's hulls welded to human engines, weapons stripped from a dozen different species. The planetary shield flickered. Failed. No demands were broadcast. No surrender requested. The first kinetic strike hit the Grand Archive, obliterating millennia of 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁's history in an instant. The message was clear. Humans didn't do warnings twice. The silence across the 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁's homeworld was heavier than the radiation clouds blanketing their shattered cities. What remained of the High Command huddled in underground bunkers, their once proud carapaces now dull with shock. 𝗕𝗀𝘀𝘁 watched the last defense feeds flicker out one by one, each black screen another nail in the coffin of their civilization. They had miscalculated everything. Not human ingenuity. Not their capacity for violence. Their restraint. The humans could have exterminated them. Turned their atmosphere to poison. Pushed their star into collapse. Instead, they'd struck only military targets, severed supply lines, and left the civilian infrastructure intact. A surgical dismantling of their empire, not its people. Elias stepped onto the scorched marble of the 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁 surrender chamber, his boots crunching over shattered crystalline insignias. The surviving council members trembled as he approached, their mandibles clicking in involuntary fear rhythms. He placed a single data chip on the obsidian table between them. "These are our terms," he said, voice devoid of triumph. "Disarmament. Dissolution of your colonial holdings. Unrestricted human oversight of your remaining fleet." One of the younger 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁s hissed. "You would make us slaves." Elias didn't blink. "We're not you." The elders emerged from their self-imposed exile as the treaty was signed. Their massive, ancient forms cast shadows across the ruins as they approached Elias. "We tried to spare them," the eldest vibrated, their voice resonating in bone more than air. Asterisk, "Few species survive learning what you are." Asterisk. Elias studied the carbon-scored ruins around them. "We know what we are," he said. "Now so do they." Dr. 𝗕𝗲𝘀 published her final research as the first human oversight ships entered 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 space. The data spread like a virus across the galactic networks: historical analyses, psychological profiles, recovered precursor warnings. The conclusion was inescapable. Humanity wasn't the galaxy's conquerors. They were its immune system. Species that left them alone thrived. Those that provoked them, well, the 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 had become a case study. A 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 tapped hesitantly at a human trade envoy's docking ramp 3 cycles later. Their crest feathers lay flat in submission as they presented a single weapon, barrel deliberately fractured. The human quartermaster accepted it with a nod. No words were needed. The lesson had been learned. The first human settlers arrived on 𝗕𝗁𝘁 Prime under a blood-red sun, their prefab habitats unfolding like steel blossoms across the irradiated plains. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 observers watched from a safe distance, their scanners recording every movement, every innovation. They expected arrogance. They found only quiet efficiency. Within weeks, the humans had done what no other species could: they made the dead world breathe again. Nanite swarms devoured the radiation, converting toxicity into fertile soil. Genetically modified algae bloomed in the poisoned seas. Where 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 science had seen only a wasteland, human stubbornness saw potential. Dr. 𝗕𝗲𝘀 monitored their progress with something uncomfortably close to awe. This was not the behavior of conquerors. This was something far more dangerous. Elias walked through the growing human settlement, his hands trailing through stalks of genetically enhanced wheat. A 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 child, small, curious, darted from behind a storage crate to stare at him. He knelt, offering a piece of fruit from Earth. The child's parent rushed forward, mandibles clicking in panic, then froze as the human made no aggressive move. "Your people took our worlds," Elias said softly. "We're giving you one back." The 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁's parents' eye stalks trembled. This was not in any of their predictive models. The Galactic Council reconvened in secret, their chambers buzzing with tension. Footage from 𝗕𝗁𝘁 Prime played on loop, humans sharing technology, medicine, terraforming secrets without demand for payment or fealty. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 warlord slammed his claws on the table. "This is a trick. A slow conquest." The elder's hologram flickered to life. "No," they intoned. Asterisk, "This is their nature. They fight like demons when provoked. But leave them in peace." Asterisk. The transmission cut to an image of Earth, blue, vibrant, teeming with life that had no business surviving so many self-inflicted apocalypses. Asterisk. "And they'll do the same for you." Asterisk. Dr. 𝗕𝗁𝘀𝘁 stood at the observation deck of the newly christened Unity Station, watching human and 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁 engineers work side by side on the orbital stabilizers. The project had been her idea. A human technician laughed at something his 𝗕𝗲𝘁 counterpart said, the sound echoing through the metal corridors. 𝗕𝗁𝘁 accessed the galactic database one last time, typing the final entry in her research log. Asterisk, the Fermi paradox had it backwards. The universe isn't silent because life is rare. It's silent because the dangerous ones learn to be quiet. And humanity, they've decided we're worth the noise. Asterisk. She closed the file as the first joint-built starship powered up its engines. The first hybrid starship tore through the fabric of space, its drive signature an impossible fusion of 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝑁's quantum harmonics and human brute force engineering. Galactic astronomers stared at their instruments in disbelief. The vessel shouldn't have worked. The technologies were incompatible in theory, violently explosive in practice. Yet there it was, defying physics as effortlessly as humans defied expectations. On the bridge, Elias studied the star charts with a quiet intensity. The 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝘁's navigator beside him input coordinates with precise, calculated movements. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. The course was set for the edge of known space, where precursor artifacts still hummed with forgotten power. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 monitored the telemetry from Unity Station, her tendrils flickering with nervous energy. The elders had warned against disturbing the ancient relics. But warnings had never stopped humans before. The artifact world hung in the void like a broken toy, its surface scarred by trenches that didn't follow natural geological patterns. The hybrid ship entered orbit with cautious grace, its scanners pinging the derelict structures below. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 science team urged patience. Standard protocols demanded months of remote study before any physical interaction. The human engineers were already suiting up. 𝗕𝗏𝘀 sealed his helmet with a hiss of pressurized air. We didn't come this far to watch from the bleachers. The precursor structure thrummed underfoot, its metallic surface vibrating at a frequency that made human teeth ache and 𝗕𝗏𝘀�'s carapaces resonate uncomfortably. Strange glyphs pulsed along the walls, reacting to their presence. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁's voice crackled through the comms. *, the energy readings, it's activating. The chamber's central node flared to life, projecting a star map so vast it made the current galactic charts look like child scribbles. At its center, a single, pulsing coordinate. The 𝗕𝗏𝘀 scientists recoiled. That's outside the galaxy. Elias's gloved hand hovered over the hologram. Then I guess we're going farther. The elders appeared on every view screen in the system simultaneously, their ancient forms radiating urgency. You must not follow that path, they intoned, their voice vibrating through bones and bulkheads alike. What waits there is why we hid. Why we culled civilizations that grew too curious. Elias studied the star map, then the terrified faces of his 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁 crewmates. He turned to the elder's flickering image. Here's the thing about humans, he said, powering up the hybrid drive. We've never been good at leaving mysteries alone. The ship jumped. Not through space. Between it. Reality tore like wet paper as the hybrid ship emerged from the jump. The stars here burned wrong, their light twisted into spirals that hurt to observe directly. The precursor coordinates led to a derelict megastructure floating in the abyss, its geometry shifting when viewed from different angles. Elias's hands hovered over the navigation console, his instincts screaming at him to turn back. The 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁 science officer had collapsed to his knees, eye stalks vibrating uncontrollably. Only the ship's AI remained functional, its voice flat as it reported the impossible readings. Atmospheric composition, none. Gravitational forces, variable. Local physics, inconsistent. A shadow moved across the structure's surface. Something vast. Something awake. 𝗕𝗀𝘀𝘁's voice shattered the silence on the bridge, transmitted through a makeshift quantum link that shouldn't have worked across this distance. Elias, get out of there. The elders are... The transmission dissolved into static as the view screens filled with the structure's interior. It wasn't empty. Corpses floated in the weightless dark, hundreds of species, some recognizable, most not. All preserved in perfect detail, their faces frozen in expressions of terminal understanding. The 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁's navigator made a wet clicking sound. This isn't a ruin. It's a museum. The hybrid ship's engines refused to respond. Power levels dropped as something drained their systems with casual indifference. External cameras showed tendrils of black energy creeping across the hull, probing joints and seams with terrifying precision. Elias grabbed a manual release lever, a human redundancy the 𝗕𝗏𝘀𝘁s had argued against installing. Brace for emergency separation. The ship shuddered violently as entire modules detached, sacrificing themselves to break whatever held them. For one terrible second, nothing happened. Then the remaining drive core screamed to life, hurling them backward through reality. They emerged near Unity Station, their hull scorched and bleeding atmosphere. The Elder's ships surrounded them immediately, weapons charged. You have doomed us all, the eldest vibrated, their form flickering with barely contained rage. That which sleeps has been disturbed. Elias wiped blood from his nose, staring at the corrupted star charts. The coordinates remained burned into the navigation console. So wake it up, he said. And let's see which of us it finds more interesting. The galaxy held its breath. Unity Station sensors detected the disturbance first, a ripple in the fabric of spacetime propagating outward from the artifact world at speeds physics said were impossible. The Elder's fleet abandoned their blockade without explanation, retreating to some hidden stronghold beyond the rim. Dr. 𝗕𝗲 watched the data streams with mounting dread. The anomaly wasn't just moving. It was learning, adjusting. Every system it touched came back changed, planets realigned, stars burning colder, the fundamental constants of reality subtly rewritten in its wake. Elias studied the same reports with a different expression. Not fear. Recognition. They're not running from it, he said. They're running from what comes next. The hybrid ship's engines flared as Elias bypassed every safety protocol. 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 engineers shouted warnings about core breaches. Human technicians just strapped in tighter. "You can't fight physics," the 𝗕𝗲𝘀 science officer screamed over the alarm klaxons. Elias grinned. "Watch us." The jump drive activated at 217% capacity. Reality shattered around them. They emerged inside the anomaly. Not near it. Not approaching it. Within it. The laws of physics here were suggestions. Light bent backward. Time flowed in eddies. The derelict megastructure loomed before them, its shifting geometry now clearly artificial, a containment vessel built by something immeasurably ancient to hold something infinitely worse. Elias opened comms on all frequencies. No encryption. No filters. Just one simple message broadcast in every known language, including several the ship's computer couldn't identify. "We're here to talk." The response wasn't a transmission. It was a rearrangement. Molecular structures in the hull reconfigured themselves into new shapes. The air itself vibrated with meaning that bypassed ears entirely, imprinting directly onto consciousness. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 science officer collapsed, his carapace cracking under the weight of sudden understanding. Human crew members bled from their eyes but remained standing. Elias tasted copper and something older as the message formed in his mind. "You are not the ones we waited for. But you will do." Dr. 𝗕𝗲𝘁 watched in horror as the anomaly changed course. Not toward populated systems. Toward the Elder's last known coordinates. The transmission from the hybrid ship crackled to life one final time. Elias's voice was different now, carrying echoes of something vast and terrible. "Turns out," he said, "we weren't the dangerous ones after all."